So let me bring up to the stage our next team of people. So we could have had one person share an overview of what's new in Adept 2018, but why take the easy way? We wanted to introduce you to more of who is behind our product, the software. This team of people is a team that I'm just incredibly honored to be working with. I'm grateful that they're the people behind the development of the Adept software. So let me welcome up to the stage Todd Cummings, Chris Fabri, Steve Ackerman, and Joe Gasper. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Scott, and thank you for the sound. Pardon? No, I'm good, thanks. And Brian, thank you for that keynote. I was really inspired. Wow. Welcome to Experience. There'll be a number of us who will say that again. We're just so appreciative for your time. And we want to give back. We want to give back in a good way, in as many different ways as we possibly can. I started my first conversation with a gentleman who is a customer, now a friend. How can I help? And I hope that if there's a way that I can help or that we can help, that you will seek us out and let us know what that is. That it's at the end of the day, it really is what we're here for. I'm still thinking about the culture video, which for me and for us is a really living, breathing thing. So explore what that means to each of us as you talk to fellow Synergites throughout the day, and in turn, what it can mean to you as well. Your family. You're here, your family. So we're going to talk about 2018. And this is a really, really exciting topic. There's just so much going on now with the product, with our development direction, with the things that we're trying to accomplish and where we're going. Before I launch into 2018, I sort of want to frame what we're going to talk about with you. 2017, which we talked about in depth at Experience last year, that was really the first external release of re-envisioning Adept's future. It was a coming out, if you will, of where we're heading, right? We sort of set the trajectory with 2017. What I want to convey to all of you is that this new approach, the roots of this new approach is really to solve the problem of better performance. Now, the new architecture, the new web clients, our new approach to solving performance brings a whole lot of other goodness with it. But at the heart of why we're doing this was something really, you would think, very simple. Better performance was something that you folks, our customers, asked for a number of years prior to us releasing Adept 2017. And now, everything that we release from here on out will be based on the new architecture and that premise. How can we help the application perform better for you, for your users as they exist today? Now, there's a whole lot else going on, but really the premise was very simple. 2018 is really the next step in the progression. This release shares more and more intelligence that we're all used to from the desktop client with the web browser. It also provides more scalable, high-performance platform for your company and for your extended use. And I think if you're not currently in 2017, maybe you're in 2017, you don't use the web clients, this will become the power of the new architecture, the power of the direction. We're going to serve to inform you about that today. It will become more and more evident to you over time. 2018 really takes some bold steps toward bridging the gap between our native solution and the new architecture. And it's faster, it's more scalable, and it's more reliable, and it is the wave of the future. With 2018, you can provide for your users capabilities that your company relies on anywhere in the world directly from the browser. And that's a really powerful concept. 2018 provides easier access to more Adept capabilities, whether your users are existing Adept Explorer or Reviewer users, whether there are new users that you're introducing to your company, in your company, to the solution for the first time. With Adept Creator, creating and editing is quick and easy. And people don't need to be Adept experts. They don't need a lot of training. They don't need a lot of retraining. What they need is a URL and a link to the application from their browser. So you've got a lot of different types of users in your organization. People have been using the system for a long time: admins, designers, remote users, and you've got a lot of non-technical people who need access to information, right? So one of the goals of 2018 was to provide a simpler, more current experience that allows users to get up and running quickly with less training and minimal retraining, while providing those capabilities that are really critical. This content editing, contribution, versioning, it's a really critical capability. It was the logical next step. Key to providing better performance was it was important for us to understand what that meant, right? The easy definition is make it go faster, right? But making it go faster in which environments? For which users? These are the things that we really had to get inside. And what we found was, obviously we knew this, but what we had to really face and come to grips with is that the nature of your business is changing. And so we needed to change to adapt to that. Most of our customers today, most of our clients have deployments or users in multiple geographic locations. And those are the areas where our native solution was challenged to provide great performance. And that was really, again, the birthplace of our new architecture. So what the team has done and what we're in the process of doing is making great distances irrelevant. So literally, if you are a user in the office and you're using the desktop client, just as you always have, or you're a user 1,000 miles away, connected over a wide area network, or perhaps even your cable modem from home, your performance should be very similar if you're using the components in the suite. So a desktop user in the office, if I'm remote over a wide area network, or at home and I'm using the browser client or even a SolidWorks integration, I should have pretty close to the same experience performance-wise. And that's the promise of Adept 2018 and this new direction that we're in the process of envisioning and bringing to bear. 2018 provides a lot of performance improvements. Joe, Steve, Chris, they're going to show you details of that. We have left no component in the solution. I'm talking a lot about the web. I'm talking a lot about new architecture. But all the components in the solution got some love, as we like to say, back in the office. You'll see amazing performance enhancements in PublishWave, some great new productivity features in the desktop client for admin and users alike. We're going to go into all of those details for you and with you. Critical to our mission and where we're heading is, with 2018, we're taking, again, another step toward our overall goal of lowering the total cost of ownership of the solution. As we continue to advance and innovate and release subsequent releases in the fashion, in the manner in which we're doing. We're going to continue to make it easier for your company to deploy, to support, and to maintain the solution. And 2018, again, takes another big step in that regard. It's an important ongoing initiative. And so I hope that, I'm confident you will see, and not only ongoing and continued steps in that direction, but ongoing and continued conversations about that as well. So a little bit about the purpose and the high-level goals of 2018, high-level concepts. We're excited to debut that here to many of you. Some of you have seen presentations in the past. Enough about the concepts, enough at the high level. We're going to get into the details now. And each of my colleagues will share a little bit with you over the next half an hour or so, but leading out is our very own Chris Fabri.
Thank you very much. So first off, how many of you have implemented 2018? Show of hands. A few, okay. How many are planning on it before the end of the year? Down a little. First quarter next year? Very nice. How many of you have test environments to do this in? Oh, bless you all. All right, very good. All right, so as Todd mentioned, there is a lot of big changes in Adept, the desktop publish wave. We're going to show you some of those new capabilities today. So we're going to kick it off first with the desktop. We've continued to improve this based on some of your requests. The user experience was a key one for us, but we'll see some stuff in workflow, and as Todd mentioned, admin, and even designer. So first off, I'm going to play this little video here, and you'll get to see a couple of these in action. First one you see is I am dragging and dropping columns. Now, I know that's been a wish list item for a long time. Yeah. Actually, I should have paused it for that. We also are seeing, in addition to the dragging and drop of columns, we're able to see there is a new filter. Whenever you're adding a column, you can type in just a couple letters, and this filter will weed out the whole list. It's really just finding those two letters. In this example, I did PL. So any columns that had PL somewhere in the word. You're going to see that tool show up a couple other areas as well. For those of you that might have really long lists of workflows, you'll be able to type in a couple letters, and it'll narrow the list down to just those that match it. In addition to the columns, we also have, I did pause it. There we go. In addition to the columns, we also have favorites being shown. And it's not letting me fast forward. Let me try something over here. There we go. So we've got the ability now to go and create, in addition to your favorites and saved searches, you can create folders, subfolders, so that you can start to organize those. These have been becoming so big. Favorites and saved searches have taken off, and because of that, being able to organize them, the folders came in really handy. And in addition to that, we also have the workflows. So with the workflows now, when you come into that screen, you're going to see there's a list of a couple extra columns. One of those is who owns it. So you can now have one person editing one workflow. Other people will be able to see who has ownership of it. You'll also notice there's sharing rights there as well, so who you can share workflows with. For anybody that had system admin created workflows from earlier versions, you really have to log in as ADM and then share them with yourself as an administrator, and then you'll see them owned by you. That goes for a couple things beyond the layers. All right, and let's see here. I think I hit on that one. Also for administrative, we set up a couple goals. One of those was being able to edit the email notification. And I'm not sure how clearly you can see that, but there's now an area where you can go and pick specific values of fields to be in your subject. You can control what the different subjects are for different types of messages, as well as the header and footer, but you're able to pick Adept values from those fields. We've also set up the ability, and this is an administrative ability, to turn off the validation of work areas. For those of you that might have a lot of work areas, and some of those may or may not be connected or working anymore, each time you log into Adept, Adept's having to validate those. That can take a while. So there is an administrative option now to turn that off. As soon as you click on a work area, it's still going to be reviving everything. Also, we've added in the user group library admin window, as some of you like to call it, the UGLA. We've added in the ability to search for and delete empty libraries. So if you initially synchronized on a very large folder structure and now you want to bring that back down to a little more manageable and some of those are empty, you'll be able to discover them and get rid of them. There's some other stuff. Oh, wow, that mouse rolled really fast, didn't it? There's a little bit more in reports. We've added in some user reports that will enable you to go in and see which users are logged in and what licenses they're using. So not just desktop, but also are they using Explore or Reviewer or Creator. And then Designer. So Designer now gives you the ability to go in and make some changes while things are running. That's not all changes, but you can go in and change how fields are arranged. You can change displays of fields and things like that. Adding fields is still going to require you to stop Adept. And let's see here. Todd, I wanted to ask you about why these specific changes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking, Chris.
Wasn't that well done?
Yeah, magic how that works. So clearly there are some cool user enhancements. Chris projected that people would clap when you could drag and drop the columns and the windows, those types of things. Really what I think you'll notice perhaps is that for you administrators in the room, there's a little something here for everyone. We know that you're busy, and we know that many of you spend critical time in the course of your work week in administering Adept. And we know that it's rare that your only job is to administer Adept. So we want to pay special attention to trying to make the administration experience quicker and easier for you. So as you reflect on the changes you saw, and as you experience them in 2018, I hope a couple of things become evident to you. One, we're listening, and we're looking for ways to help you get the information you need to do your job more quickly and more efficiently. I think it's true that most of the enhancements you see here were suggestions or perhaps even discussions that happened at either Experience last year or a combination of last year and the previous year. And I'm very clear that the request to have multiple administrators edit workflow at the same time came from a suggestion here at Experience. And I'm talking to all you conspirers in the crowd here. That was a happy conspiracy that really resulted in, I think, that something's going to be tremendously valuable for the entire community. So again, we hope the value is that your job is easier, that leaner, more efficient, and just yet one more plug, and you'll hear them throughout the day, today and day tomorrow. Talk to us, have these conversations. Capabilities, features, polishes, enhancements that can make a big difference for you actually happen based on discussions we have here. Chris?
All right, so a few more new items. First off was SOLIDWORKS 2018 integration. So I know I'm focused on SOLIDWORKS, but if you're an Autodesk user, AutoCAD, Inventor, Navisworks, please take note, this exact same style of integration is coming to your CAD very, very soon. Let's see here, let's go to. So here, we've got the new Task Pane. First, oh, you missed it already, sorry. Notice desktop wasn't running. So just by logging into SolidWorks, I have the ability to then log into Adept. We've got a ribbon menu at the top. These are the commands that are not in your right mouse click. Everything else is in your right mouse click. But the ribbon menu enables you to go and do specific things from that top area. I'm performing a search here, and you can see I've got a set of results, and some of those are files that were in the middle of a workflow. So I now have the ability to participate right in that workflow. Did this pop off?
No.
I think it came out of the holster there. You also have access, as I mentioned, to participate in the workflow and favorites and saved searches. That'll work. You got it. So you have access to the favorites as well. Now, the interface that you're looking at looks a lot like Adept, the desktop. All of those are arrangeable. So things like the tabs that you're seeing in this area, I can turn them on and off. If I never use file guides, I can turn those off. If I exclusively use file guides, I can turn some of the other ones off, and you can do that at any time. That goes not only for the top area, but also the document dashboard area down below. You're going to see in a moment the relationship information down below. We also have page counts, so if you're getting really long lists, you can jump to specific areas as well as increase that page count. And then in the lower right, I've got right now just a relationship view, but that also has the thumbnail and children versions. And as I mentioned, this too, you can right-click on and decide which ones you want turned on and which ones you don't want turned on. In addition to the displays that you're seeing, there's also two viewing widths. That's kind of like the skinny view, and then just clicking on that button gives you kind of a wider view. So if regularly you need to jump to long lists and see lots of columns of information, that'll get you there real quickly, and then you can go back to your smaller view. This was a big change for us. Joe, this was a big change, wasn't it?
Chris, this wasn't. I'll refrain from saying this was huge.
Yeah.
This is a big change. By having the integration in SolidWorks connect to Adept the same way the web client applications do, and no longer piggybacking on the Adept desktop client, we achieved two primary goals. One was the pain of having to log into the desktop client before starting your CAD application, in this case SolidWorks, and then having to continue on in that process. The second goal was that as you start SolidWorks and log into the Adept integration, it's a fraction of the time that it used to take. There's also many other things that we were able to put into this release in addition to just those two. Many of the requests that our CAD users, our integration users had was to be able to multi-select in the results area. You can now do that where the command is appropriate. You can't select 5 parts and drag and drop them into an assembly, but you can select 5 parts and check them in at the same time. You can now participate in workflows. That was heavily requested through the ability to do approves, rejects, and all the associated commands in the workflow area. You can also participate in relationship management by being able to create manual relationships as well as to collaborate, all within the Task Pane. The action settings, which used to be at the bottom of the Task Pane interface, are now combined into a single dialog that's activated through your drag and drop. So we were able to take the document dashboard and place that now in the bottom of the Task Pane interface. And as we know, the document dashboard is a treasure trove of information. So I'm gonna deviate right now and ask a quick question. How many people here use the CAD integration, including with the Task Pane interface? Okay, how many of you use the CAD application but turn off our integration? Okay, I'm after you guys. Because if we don't do this integration, I lose my job. So you have to start using the CAD integration. And the way I'm going to do that is by making it so good that you feel so guilty turning it off. Okay? I'm into that. I'm into making you feel guilty. But what does all this mean? Well, that your usage of SolidWorks with the Adept integration will be smoother, faster, and most of all, you'll be less likely to leave SolidWorks to go over to the desktop client to do the work you need to do. The objective is to keep you here in your CAD application. So we want your SolidWorks users to be doing even more with Adept than ever before by these enhancements. And what's important, and Chris already mentioned, with our Adept release targeted for early next year, these same changes, the same interface, and its changes to how it connects to Adept will be available in AutoCAD, Inventor, and Navisworks. They'll have this updated integration. Thank you, Chris.
Another area that we got into is PublishWave. So 2018 modifies the way documents are delivered to PublishWave, as well as checked in by Adept if you're using Publish to Adept. PublishWave and Publish to Adept now connect to Adept, not requiring the desktop client, license or software. Neither one is required for PublishWave. This allows you to connect and to download documents without staging or transferring via that plugin. Again, eliminating the use of the desktop client. We've also added in support for SOLIDWORKS 2018 for printing and publishing, support for layers. If you're outputting PDFs, they now have specifically outputting PDFs from an AutoCAD DWG format. Files of those PDFs will have layers in them. So if you are used to looking at PDFs and you've got bookmarks on the left-hand side, there'll now be a layer control. So you'll be able to turn on and off layers. That's been added. And none of that was an easy thing to do either, was it, Joe?
Right, Chris. This was important. And it's important. I look at this and I think with Publisher, is that all the hell we did? Is that all we, but let me, there takes steps. Sometimes there's big steps with a lot of improvements and changes, and sometimes there's small steps, or what appear to be a small step. But in the product itself, this was a pretty big step. And a lot of our customers wanted this, because in the past, the desktop client, when you initiated a submission to PublishWave, it would have to stage all those files at your machine, and that means getting them from the vault, and then send them over to the PublishWave server. And that took time. So if you were sitting there, you'd see the little dialogue come up saying, preparing to send the job to PublishWave. Now what we've done is the job file itself is the only thing that's created on the user's machine, and that's very quick, and then it takes it and deposits that over to PublishWave server. The server itself is responsible for acquiring the files from the vault. This saves you, the user, a lot of time, as you're no longer waiting for this job to be compiled and submitted to PublishWave. You get back your ability to continue working in the desktop client or your Adept application much faster, and you can continue to work even while the PublishWave server then is acquiring those files from the vault itself. This other option, thank you, Todd, I appreciate that. The other option for layers and PDFs, this was a long-standing request. Why don't the PDFs generated by PublishWave have the layer information when I open it in the PDF viewer? We were able to accomplish that with this release. So now when you open that, generally it's an AutoCAD DWG produced into a PDF. You now have the layers on the left-hand side, so you can turn them on and off and adjust the view of looking at that PDF inside of the PDF viewer. So it's a big change, yeah, a big change.
It is a big change. And a couple other ones that we got into this year, Explorer and Reviewer, both of those got some new additions. They are joined by Creator. We'll talk about that one in a little bit, which was built on that successful client architecture with Adept 2017. Creator is going to include check-in, check-out. Explorer and Reviewer adds a few other abilities. If we take a peek here, we can see expanded viewer support was one. In earlier web versions, a Java browser plugin was required to start the Adept viewer. As most browsers have really discontinued that use, we've implemented a new method of starting the viewer. It's Java Web Start. It's a technology that downloads a starter file to the browser after the first time it's accepted by a user. That viewer will then automatically start from that point forward. No browser plugin is required. We've also extended tablet support. So in addition to supporting iOS, iOS 9 or greater, the web clients now support Android, Marshmallow or greater, and Windows 10 only tablets at this time. Adept Explorer and Reviewer support tablets running iOS, Android, and Windows 10. Tablets running native Windows 10 support Adept Creator in addition to Adept Explorer and Reviewer. And if we take a peek here, we can see, first off, the ribbon menu. So this was similar to what we saw in SOLIDWORKS in the Task Pane. The ribbon menu at the top will have commands that are appropriate when you have files selected. So participation in workflows as well as the new Send To feature. We saw earlier how you could add and modify the subject lines, but this is when you send an email. I chose a link in this example. And now I can pick from a list of Adept users, and it'll populate their email address for me. And then I can modify the subject as well. And I multi-selected files to do that. We're also going to see on the left-hand side that in, let's see here. Go one more. There we go. We can also see the folder structure, the ability to now create relationships. So I've got a file selected here, and down below I can see different relationships to that. Just like in the SOLIDWORKS Task Pane, you can now go and create manual relationships between files right from the web clients. Also, we've added in a slightly different navigation on the just blanked out the name of it, not the tree. No, that wasn't the name I was looking for. Thank you, yes. So the action is a little bit different in there. It now will collapse to the left side. So it makes it a little bit quicker to jump in between them. Also the ability to go in and modify and add new favorites and save searches right from the web client. You can also go and remove those or rename them if you wish to right from here. And then the last item that we had on here, I'm going to log out here as an Explorer user and log back in as a reviewer. And they've added in a couple other abilities. First off was the relationship. So and did I get that right? The reviewer is the one that can create relationships? Or can, okay. So in this example, I've got a file selected. Down below, you'll be able to see the different relationships that already exist. And then just by selecting the relationship icon, I can then go and build and add additional relationships. And in this example, I think I just go and pick a couple images and a few other supporting documents. So it just brings up a very quick interface on the side, and now I can just go and explore, very similar to the way it works in the desktop as well. Now, the last one that we've got on here, there we go, and now you'll be able to see the relationships in the lower left-hand corner has been updated, and we'll be able to see there now the green icons that we're used to seeing for a manual relationship. Any moment. There we go. So you can see those down below. Now, Creator, in 2018, we added in Adept Creator. It provides another level of functionality for browser-based Adept users, and it provides the ability to access Adept work areas. You can perform check-in, check-out, as well as copy, rename, and deletion of Adept documents. So let's take a look here. In this example, I'm logging in as a creator, and the first item I'm going to get into is the settings. So when this is first run, there's two things that enable the check-in, check-out abilities. The first one is Adept Client Services. This is what's going to enable the web client to be able to recognize the work areas and perform those check-in, check-out abilities. It also has a second download for those that are checking out and checking in AutoCAD DWG files. The second one will then enable that to extract the attribute and relationship information from those drawings when checking in. So if you don't use AutoCAD drawings, only one of those installs is necessary for the work areas. Here you can see I'm accessing my work areas. I can add new ones. I can edit and delete them and even create brand new ones as well. So if I'm on a different computer, maybe I'm on my home computer, I can add a work area and be my home work area for my own home work system. And let's see here. Was there one more? I think that was it. Oh, check in, check out. So you're about to see the checkout ability. With that, Steve, we were shooting for something when we did all this.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So, in the end, what we're hoping for with these enhancements and this new functionality is to make your users successful and, in the end, a lot more productive. Todd's spoken to our increased performance, and we really have focused on performance. Internally, we're using the product a lot more. Creator has really been adopted, especially for our remote users. It's providing a really good experience for them being remote, not on the local area network. They're able to really perform their tasks on a daily basis, with performance increases that we've provided. IT departments tend to really love the minimal footprint on disk and the ease of updating. There's really nothing on the disk that other than a small little installer for Creator users. And that can get auto-updated as you get new releases sent to your company. We hope that the overall user experience is really seen by your existing user base, and that we can expand, to new users, so we can connect them to your data, your business processes.
All right, Todd, I'm going to have you come up and talk a little bit about the new Web Services API.
Adept Explorer, Adept Reviewer, and Adept Creator, as well as the new SOLIDWORKS 2018 Task Pane, are built using a combination of technologies. On the front end, it's either JavaScript in the browser or Microsoft development environment for the Task Pane. On the back end, it uses web services. And these web services are basically APIs that we're using to make the end user presentations that you and your users use every day. The neat thing about these web services is they're growing by leaps and bounds. The web services API is now 100% smarter in 2018 than it was in 2017. Why this is important, potentially, and this may be most interesting to IT folk or DevOps folk in the room. This web API, these web services are available for you to use. So as soon as the web server is installed, and that's now a required component when you update to 2018, it requires both the native server and the web server. All of this amazing goodness is immediately available for developers. So we're always amazed, and we anticipate, can't wait to hear what you folks are doing with the API, with the Web Services API. Folks are using these now, using them to extend the capabilities not only of Adept, but other business systems. You'll hear about an example a little bit later on about how they're actually practically being used in the field. So over the next couple of releases, you'll hear us saying similar things. The web API, the smarts that power the web client and the task panes are going to continue to get really, really, really smart. Yep. So I'm sorry about that. At this moment in time, what we want to do is we've given you, I hope, a decent overview of 2018. We've covered enhancements to the desktop client. We've covered enhancements to PublishWave. We've talked about the new task pane. And we've talked about Creator as well as enhancements to Adept Explorer and Adept Reviewer. Before we take a question or two specifically about what you've seen today, we want to honor the fact that you folks responded when we asked. We asked you to ask some questions in advance with the hopes of us being able to sort of tailor our presentations to help you understand the questions that you were asking about. So what I want to do is just quickly run through a couple of these questions that you posed prior to the event. So one or more of you asked, are there plans to make Adept more extensible? Well, that's interesting. So extensible just kind of means ability to be extended. There are a number of ways that can happen today with whatever version of Adept you're implemented. It doesn't matter if it's 2015, 2017, or even 2018. We have the native API, which is incredibly mature and very functional. A lot of you actually have customizations. Sometimes we refer to them as apps. Sometimes we refer to them as CP, for custom programming. This capability extends Adept out of the box and makes it suited for your particular needs. And you'll hear some stories about how clients have done that. There's also the Web API. The Web API is being used more and more to connect business systems, to mash up and create cool new capabilities for your organizations, sometimes to handshake between systems like SharePoint and Adept. That's a great use of the Web API. And tomorrow, in the roadmap presentation, you'll hear about next steps we're taking to make Adept extensible. One of the big features for 2019 in the web client is to have a presentation side API. So the browser clients will have a plugin system, an API, similar to the way the desktop offers that today. So those are some ways that Adept is extensible today and continuing to be more extendable. I love this question. How can we leverage Adept more within our information management goals? That's a great question. My answer is, how can you? And critically, how can we help? I wish I knew what your company's goals were. I'd probably have 4 to 11 ideas immediately. So if this is your question, let's talk about it. Let's talk about ways to make Adept relevant in your organization. The way we've done it is we use Adept now more than we ever have before in our organization. It's really one of the first ways to do this is to look for opportunities. And we have customers, Dow has a team of folks who have been really focused on looking for opportunities, business problems that the team can help solve by the application of their incredible domain expertise as well as the tools they have at their disposal, one of which is Adept. Here's a juicy one. When do you expect Adept to transition from a desktop client-based application into a browser application? That's a longer discussion than I'm going to have time to answer now. But suffice it to say, there will be a time in our future where the use of the desktop client is, let's say, it will be considered optional. The capabilities that are offered in the browser and the Task Pane will eventually be at parity with the desktop client. And eventually, there'll be other ways to perform your administration functions. So that's coming. Exactly when? Hard to say. 4 years, 6 years, something like that. Maybe several major releases. And we'll talk more about that in the roadmap. And finally, is there a plan for companies that are moving to the cloud? Yes, people are doing it already. If you have specific questions about cloud and how to deploy Adept in the cloud or strategies, how that can be done, let's have a discussion about it. The last 2 Adept experiences, we've done presentations on that. We've learned a lot, worked with customers since that time, so we've got some great information for you. Okay? I think we about at time. Our last piece was really to ask if there are questions. Martha, do we have time for that, or are we on to the next thing? We have a little time for questions? Okay. And why don't we go ahead? Are you doing that, Fab?
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Based upon your initial comments, would I expect to see, if I had a server in the U.S. and I had a user in Europe,
Yes.
would I expect to see better performance via the desktop or via Creator? Is the web API inherently less chatty
Yes.
or more efficient for long distances?
Yes. Yes, so thank you for the question, and you actually answered it correctly for yourself. So let me repeat it just so that we listen. Everything, all the goodness that Adept is today is completely due to the desktop client and all the amazing capabilities and innovations that the team has brought to bear in that particular presentation of value, if you will, over the years. You heard me say earlier that this journey we're on of building up the capabilities in what we call our web infrastructure is really about performance. About 3 years ago, maybe it was 4 now, in the summer, we spent the equivalent of 18 person months trying to make the native architecture perform better in wide area environments, in areas where there was, in infrastructures and situations where there were high latency. And although we made some improvements, we weren't successful in really getting it to be amazingly faster. So we needed to make a change. We needed to address that because, as I said, the nature of your business is changing. We've been doing this a long time, almost 30 years ago. The implementations that we had 30 years ago are very, very different from the implementations we have today. The web-based architecture, one of its benefits is that it reduces the amount of conversation or chatter between the client and the server. It's the whole idea about how applications interact on the web is kind of a lot leaner, more terse, more to the point and succinct than the way client-server applications work. Client-server came up in the era of the local area network. It was designed for that, and it wasn't as lean about the way it communicated. So Creator will work a lot better for users in other countries. We pretty consistently internally see that there's not a lot of difference in speed for desktop and web on a local area network. Actually, in some cases, the desktop is probably a little faster. Not all cases, but some cases. When we take that same test and we move it to remote environments where bandwidth is lower, where latency is higher, we actually see that it takes about 1/3 less time to perform operations in Creator or the Task Pane than it does in the desktop. It's not the desktop's fault. It's the architecture, it's the way that it was spun up and put together over years and years and years. Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a few questions. The first one is, you introduced the Adept Task Panel for the SolidWorks, right? So I'm not sure it's available for the desktop too, Autodesk, sorry, or the MicroStation.
Good question. So at initial release of 2018, it was not available for the Autodesk solutions. That's what the team is working on right now. So we have our first incremental release of 2018. It'll be 2018.1 or 2018 Feature Pack 1. We haven't kind of finalized the name yet, but we're close. That we plan for the first part of Q1 of this coming calendar year. That will include the same kind of integrations for AutoCAD, Autodesk Inventor, and Navisworks. We do not currently have a Task Pane, that internal integration inside of MicroStation. Cue Don. No. there are passionate members of the community who continue to lobby us to, right, to continue to lobby us. We love you most days. They continue to lobby us to put the Task Pane in MicroStation, which we appreciate. So it's not available yet. We have the data extraction pieces, which you're familiar with, but we don't have the Task Pane inside MicroStation. Actually, the way the Task Pane is coming up, and it's slightly premature, but we're looking for other hosts for the Task Pane. It's a nifty little parasite that puts Adept in everything. So that's a cool. It's something that is on the radar, but not scheduled for development yet. Done. Okay.
The email notification. So when we set up the email notification, we
Yes.
can customize, right? So
Yeah.
that setup is across the board, or we can set up selected by workflow or on the library level.
It is across the board, and there is one for each of the different notification styles. So if a send to is done, there's one. If there's an assign, it's a different message. If there's a workflow approval step, that can be a different message. But it is global. It is for all notifications.
Thank you.
They might have different values because of what people pick, but.
Right. One of the neat things about that capability, it's a very well conceived and executed feature, in my opinion. You can map fields to the subject lines and to the messages, so field values. That gives you a lot of flexibility in the way subject lines are created. So it's a pretty cool capability. I think you'll like it.
Piggyback onto her email question, because we've had issues, I think, from the beginning when in workflow we reject a document into workflow. It goes back to the originator or wherever we're rejecting it back to. It says, this document is ready for review. No, it's not. It's been rejected. So I don't know, is that one of the things that we can customize in this new improved email?
So the wording on it is not in review. You can make the wording whatever you would like it to be, but that is for the workflow steps. Okay, so it's going to be across all of them. Good question. Yeah.
Thank you for your advocacy on that. I'm sorry it took us so long to get it there.
Hi, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Michael Tam from Solar Turbine, San Diego, California. Just to piggyback again on her question as well about the integration. So it's exciting to see integration with SolidWorks, and then AutoCAD's coming up soon, I hear. Do you foresee any pipeline for integration with PTC Creo or Windchill?
Yeah, interesting question. Your question, I'm actually going to answer your question in a compound answer because I want to be sure that we're clear about the capabilities that 2018 provides, so and will provide. So we have a policy of supporting, when we release a new version of the software, we have a policy of supporting the current shipping version of the CAD solution and 2 versions back, Joe. So that's true. When we released Adept 2018, it supports SolidWorks 2018 as well as SolidWorks 2017 and 2016. I just want to be really clear about that. The new style Task Pane with all the extended capabilities that Chris and Joe showed is only supported for SolidWorks 2018. We did not retrofit the new Task Pane with its new capabilities and new performance enhancements back into SolidWorks 2017 and 2016. The same will be true in the first part of Q1 2019 when we release Autodesk support. That will be support for Autodesk 2019 products. The solutions will support Autodesk 2018, Autodesk 2017? 19 and 18. So 19, 18, and 17. However, the new stuff will only be supported in 2019. So conversely, each new release, when Autodesk releases their 2020 products early Q2 of next year, our support will follow on, obviously, with the new stuff moving forward with 2020. And eventually, the existing Task Pane technology will be cycled out at the end of 2 years. Hope that makes sense. So to answer your question about Creo and Windchill, wow, that was long-winded to get there. Thank you for going on that journey with me. The answer is we've had a number of requests to support Creo over the years. What I'll say is slightly more chance of MicroStation being supported before that, and they're both not currently scheduled for development. However, as is always the case, we would like to hear more about how we can help add value there. That's a very interesting discussion that I think we'd love to have. Secondly, with regard to Windchill, I believe that it's technically feasible to integrate Adept and Windchill today. You're going to hear about a component of the suite which we added to the solution last year after a lot of years of hoping and wishing and searching. We now have a solution in the suite called Adept Integrator. And we're doing some really cool and exciting things with Integrator. And our integration guru and whiz, Jean, is here, and he's gonna show you some amazing stuff that the team has been working on with regard to integration. So that, I believe, to be something that we could affect near term.
Very exciting. Thank you.
One last? Okay.
Any other last questions?
Somebody's got one. I know you're afraid that if you ask one question, you're going to get two answers for the price of one, aren't you? That's a way to scare them into not asking any questions.
Being a new user, well, we've only had it in our company for a while now. One of the biggest questions was on the Autodesk undocking it, moving it out of its system. Is that something that's able to be done?
Yeah,
Yes.
even with the SOLIDWORKS one, I could have just grabbed that and just put it on my other window and still had a skinny and a wide view. You can move that wherever you want.
Because I know with most users, window space on their systems is the most crucial. So having it removed from Autodesk out of its
Yes.
task pane is what's needed.
It's dockable. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for asking.